I'm 3 months into starting my own business and I want to share 8 things that I've learned so far. Let's not waste any time and dive right into it, starting with the first point, which is it's not actually that hard. It's not difficult to start a business. Anyone can really. And if you're a creative like myself, you've probably had friends or family interested in your services already. And if you've done something for them, like creating a logo, maybe doing some graphic design or just some web design, then you've already started your business. And I might be over exaggerating a little bit, but if you have done a small project for something, a small chunk of change for a friend, a family member, just a random person, that is business. You have exchanged a service for something. Whatever that something is, it is still an exchange. The hardest part about starting a business, and this is just my opinion, is starting. A lot of other people might say this as well, but it is actually riskier to stay within your 9 to 5 than to start your own business. It's either riskier or just as risky. The reason I say this is because job security is just not guaranteed nowadays, especially with all the tech layoffs that are happening. You never know when you're gonna get laid off. So starting a business as opposed to staying within your 9 to 5, which one's riskier? It's hard to say. One book that I'm reading right now, and I'm not gonna lie, it is not the best read. I'm just gonna preface it by saying it is a motivational book, but it has some really good tidbits in there, is $1 Million Fast Lane. It pretty much just talks about a lot of things that you need to put your mindset in order to start a business and do it successfully. So definitely give it a shot if you have time to spare. If you really want to kind of think about starting your own business, definitely give it a shot. The second thing that I've learned about starting my own business is that it's a very steep learning curve. The only thing that you really need to keep in mind is that it gets easier as time progresses, but you just need to replicate a process. In my experience, there are 2 different areas that have a large learning curve, and one of those is the business side of things. So you just have to keep in mind that you are running a business and there are administrative sides to it. This includes things such as client outreach and management, project management, invoicing, negotiating, forming an LLC or an S-Corp, taxes, the list goes on, right? And if you're watching this while considering starting something of your own, please do not get discouraged. I do not want to overwhelm or scare you. Like I said before, it is a steep learning curve and there's a lot of information at the very beginning, but it gets easier as you go and you have time. You don't have to go through it immediately. Take time to digest it and slowly figure things out. The other part is your craft. If you work in corporate and you're stepping out to freelance, just keep in mind that now you're doing everything on your own and you might not have access to all of the resources that you had before. So things just gradually get harder. While you're doing this, you have to keep in mind a few things. One of them is how can you find a cost-effective and efficient workflow that benefits you and your clients? That takes time, practice, and repetition. But once you get that last part, the repetition, things get a lot easier. So for example, I've only worked with 2 clients and I'm currently working on securing my 3rd, but because I've already done client acquisition twice, I'm a little bit more confident when it comes to negotiating, setting up the project and goals, and figuring out anything else that comes with my previous experiences. While working with my other clients through these phases, I made sure to critique my approach and keep note of things that worked and get rid of things that didn't. So I'm continuously optimizing my approach every time I go through it. Now keep in mind that is just the project management side of your business. Within your craft, there are other things that you can do to involve repetition. For me, I'm designing websites and user experiences. I'm also doing a lot of digital marketing, creating plans and briefs. So then you have to ask yourself, what are some things that I could do right now to make the process easier for myself in the future? Something that I did was I put a lot of the work in at the very beginning. So for things that are repetitive, like creating campaign briefs or web design, I'm creating templates that I could just fill in and use for clients, or I'm creating components that are repetitive, things that are not styled directly to their branding, and using them for later projects. Now I'm not spending a lot of time figuring out what details that I might need to include in the campaign brief, or creating custom components or redesigning something, the same thing that I've done in the past multiple times. Instead, because you've done it before, just rinse and repeat and adjust based on the client's needs. Okay, let's move on to the 3rd thing that I learned, which is that if you have corporate experience in whatever you're doing, and now you're trying to find tools that you can use on your own, it is expensive. To talk about this, let's consider the cost of my own design studio. I have a decent understanding of HTML and CSS, but writing code is something that I don't really know how to do. Not only that, but I can't afford that program that we use. So what do I have to do? Find something cheaper that works for at least my needs, which for me was Webflow. And Webflow obviously costs money. There's a ton of different subscription models, but for me, we're just gonna cost it at $24 per month, which is the cheapest one, I think. Now let's consider the program that you're designing on. For me, that's Figma. And obviously I'm trying to cut costs wherever I can. I wanna save as much money as I can. So let's just look at the free version. I'm having a lot of limitations, and in the future I definitely want to upgrade to the professional version. So right now we'll just price it at $15 a month. Now let's consider other things that you may or may not include in your workflow as a designer. For me, I like to use Envato elements to grab assets that I can't make, such as icons, fonts, components, imagery, things like that, pretty much to help me increase the efficiency of my workflow. But let's baseline that at $23 a month, which I think is also the cheapest subscription that you can get from them. It all adds up, and it sucks when you're the one paying for it, but if it increases the efficiency of your workflow, then the costs are justified. It just sucks having to pay for it. If you're enjoying the video so far, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you want to see videos like this in the future. But other than that, let's move on to the next point. The fourth thing that I learned while starting my own design studio, and this was actually a tough lesson, is that if you have to learn something, don't panic. Just set aside some time, watch some YouTube videos, do some Google searches, and you will figure it out. It's really easy to get overwhelmed, but as you dive into things, you slowly start to figure it out. And I'll give you an example. I recently felt very overwhelmed while putting together pieces of a marketing plan that I had already been working on. So because of that, I called up one of my friends who has experience in digital marketing for some advice. This person I typically go to for a lot of things. They're kind of like my mentor out here. They have a lot of experience in areas that I do as well. So I thought that this was a good person to go to when I had questions. And unfortunately, on my part and not on his, it was slightly a mistake. Let me elaborate on this a little bit. I called my friend and asked him to tell me a little bit about his experience doing digital marketing for his clients. And I didn't realize that the way I phrased the question was pretty much giving him an open world to talk about everything that he's been doing. So areas that I have no experience in, especially because his agency offers completely different solutions to what I offer. And that's where I made the mistake. Because he gave me so much information, I got really overwhelmed and spent the next hour panicking and freaking out. I kept telling myself things that I wasn't suitable for this job, that maybe I should call them and give up and say, here's your money back, things like that. But then I just took a breather, calmed down for a little bit, and then sat down and watched some videos, went through some Google searches, read some Reddit forums, things like that. I took some time to sit down and slowly digest the information that I was taking in, and it actually did help me put together the pieces of the marketing plan I was working on. And it was actually already in line into what I was planning for them. The YouTube videos, the Google searches, the Reddit threads, they all helped me piece together information that I already vocalized to my clients, and it also taught me some things that I didn't know. So it was definitely a plus. It wasn't difficult, I just needed a bit of time to calm down, watch a few hours of YouTube videos, do a bit of reading, just really some studying, and I was all set. The fifth thing that I learned, and this one might be a given, but you build more confidence as you gain more experience. I already touched on this a bit earlier, but the more that you repeat a process, the easier it'll become. You'll also find ways to make your workflow a lot more efficient, and because of that, you'll save time that you can use to decide whether or not you want to add more projects in, maybe go on a different business venture, things like that. I feel like the opportunities are pretty endless there. There's so many things that you could do. The sixth thing that I learned, and I feel like when people tell you this or you hear this, you go, well, duh. But for me, that wasn't the case, and it's not something that I really valued in the past, but you build more clientele through relationships. Like I said before, this is something that I did not value in the past, and it's something that I'm still learning to value now. But a lot of clients that you gain are through word of mouth. And I thought about this recently to myself, because I've always done the opposite thing. If I want to go and find a service or someone to help me, professional help, I will seek out that help on my own. But then I thought, what if that person that I just formed a new professional relationship with recommended or referred me to someone else? Would I listen to them? Probably, because I went out and found that person and they know what I like and dislike now. So if they refer me to someone, I'm probably going to listen to them. It'll save me a lot of time and money as well, like looking for people that are good enough, at least for the standards that this person already knows that I have. So word of mouth actually does help. Who would have thought? I also recently noticed that I'm opening up a lot more to word of mouth because there's a lot of things that I don't have time to really search for nowadays, and especially depending on the city that you live in, it really can be very difficult to find someone that is very good at what they do. Like if you search for a doctor in your area, especially if you live in a large city, it is super saturated, and it's hard to find someone, for one, that, you know, accepts your insurance, or someone that's good, someone that'll listen, all these different things. So what's the best way to do it? Just go to someone through word of mouth. So for me, I needed to find a CPA. I didn't know where to start, and I had a friend who does something very similar to me. So they said, hey, I have someone, they're really good, I love them, I recommend them, here they go. Booked an appointment, consultation, spoke with the consultant or the CPA, went well. I have a new CPA. The lesson here for me was that word of mouth is strong. If you build good relationships with different people, they will help you gain more business. So the clients that I have, if I build a good relationship with them and they have friends who run businesses and need help in similar areas, I'm the first person they'll think of, hopefully at least. Now let's move on to the 7th thing that I have learned while starting my own design studio, and that is that you can earn so much more money by white labeling. Sometimes you'll run into a client that is asking for more than what you offer. Maybe you cover about 80% of what they're asking for, maybe 60, or maybe only 20%. But because of that difference, you may be tempted to refuse the client, the money, everything. Or maybe you're just hell-bent on earning more money, so you'll say yes and take on more than what you can chew, which I hope is not true, and I would definitely not recommend that, because that's when you will get overwhelmed. Instead of refusing, think of someone that you know who can offer this service, or someone that you can find within your network that can. So for example, if a client comes up to me and asks, hey Mark, we're looking for a graphic designer to deliver us 1 post per week for our social media pages, normally I would say, well, I am not a graphic designer, so you would have to go and find someone else. But instead, I'm gonna go with the white labeling option. Because I know someone who does do graphic design, I'll say, yeah, well, I actually team up with another designer on this, so we'll just go ahead and brainstorm a few different ways that we can provide you this service and get back to you with the price and stuff later on. This way you can expand on your services and secure a portion of that work and money, and then negotiate a higher contract price, a higher package price, and white label. So let's say my friend wants to charge them $1,000 per month for his portion of services, and I also want to charge $1,000 per month. So $2,000 in total for both of our services. That's the whole package, right? Just for us to get paid at the baseline level. This is just an example, by the way. So then when we're taking white labeling into consideration, instead of charging $2,000 as the baseline, I might negotiate $2,500. And then I'm profiting $500 because I'm providing my friend with work. Here's a contract, take it. You don't have to do the negotiating, project management. I will take care of all of that for $500 and you'll get $1,000. That's white labeling. You're expanding your services, securing your portion of the work and extra income while helping someone else out and partnering with them. Okay, now let's talk about the last thing that I learned, which is you can't half-ass it. I feel like this is a given, but a lot of people don't actually hear those words. And you've probably run into a lot of people who say they're starting something or want to start something, but they're not treating it as seriously as the next person. And what I mean by that is the mindset. A lot of people might start a business and say it's a side hustle or something like that. And if that's your case, go ahead, that is completely fine. For me, I'm treating this business as my main source of income. And because of that, I'm going all in on it. That's really the only way that you'll grow. You can't just accidentally scale your business, make it become successful. You have to really put a lot of time and effort into it, especially if you're working with other people, and especially if you're working with their money. Another thing that I keep telling myself, other than it's my main source of income and I should treat it as such, is that I am making an impact on other people's lives, in terms of money at least. So treat it as such, because if you mess up with their money, that's not a good look. Not a good look at all. So you want to help them out. take it seriously. And that is pretty much it. Those are the 8 things that I have learned in my own experience from starting a design studio. If you liked the video, make sure to go and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please let me know if there's anything else that you want to see in the comments down below. Hit me up on Instagram, other things like that. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. But other than that, I will see you in the next video.